I'm Alexey Grinevich from Inflectra, from Rapise test automation team. And today, the goal of today's webinar is to show how easy and quickly one may create a data-driven test using features introduced by Rapise with its RL technology. And just before we begin, we are talking about Rapise version 5.2. This version is currently available as beta, and it should appear as a public release within a week, but it's available for an early access. So if you write an email to sales@inflectra.com, you may get the download link and start using it today. The example that we will be working on is also available as a part of Rapise samples collection. You may find it on the start page of Rapise, and if you scroll here, you may start 3 samples starting from the abbreviation RVL. So the one we will be working on today is RVL web login. It's not exactly the same as we will do, but it's very similar, so you may just open it and play yourself. Okay, so I'm going to create this test from scratch. So my goal is to start new test in Rapise. I may create it right from Spira, but I need to assign some folder. I don't need, but I would like to create a folder to organize my test cases, create a test case, web login test. So this means that the test I will create will be immediately uploaded to Spira and then may be used for execution, scheduled execution, sharing between users, and so on. So that's convenient to create it from scratch. If you don't have Spira, you don't have to use it. You may just proceed with button create locally and repeat exactly all the same steps. So Spira is a good addition, adding power, but it's not required. So you may proceed without Spira doing exactly the same things. So I'm choosing now the type of the test. I'm going to work with web applications, so I'm choosing web with cross-browser support type of library. And I'm going to do recording with Chrome. And actually I can do it with any other browser. And then in the end of this session, I'm going to show you how to play this with different browsers, with Firefox, with IE, with headless mode, and so on. So this will be in the final part of today's presentation. Okay, so I'm just creating a new test, and the first question after choosing the browser I'm asked is which language do I prefer? So Rapise with versions up to 5 were supporting only one language, and it's JavaScript, and most of Rapise itself is implemented in this JavaScript, and most of libraries support is implemented in JavaScript, so it's some kind of native language for Rapise. And since version 5.1 we are introducing visual language RVL, and we are going to present it here. And now we are going to use it because we are going to demonstrate its features. So I'm click on RVL. It's our language for this test. Okay, I don't want to save previous test. It was some intermediate thing. Okay, so I have an empty RVL screen with its columns. Some of you more or less familiar with that. And the best way to get more familiar is actually record something to see how it looks, and then start modifying, updating, correcting your test to better fit your needs. That's what we are going to do. So for web tests, it's better to start recording with web browser already open on the initial page that we are going to visit with our automated test. So I'm opening Library Information System. This is our sample application, and I'm going to implement my test for across this system. And now I'm ready to start recording. Since I've chosen to do record for Chrome, it immediately attaches to this Chrome application, and you may see this record activity window. It will show whatever I do with application. The first action, if you're familiar with test automation, the first action that I usually do is I press Home. It looks like a void step, as if I do nothing useful because I am returned to the same page. But in general, the browser may stay in some unexpected state. So starting from returning to initial state is always a good choice. Then my next step is, since I'm going to test login logic, I press the login link, and I see the standard username password form. So I'm going to enter some incorrect user, some wrong password, and click login. So login logic just passed. I got some failure message, so it's high time to verify that this failure message is what I expected to see. So I'm pressing verify. Click on the object I want to verify. In this case, it's this failure message. And now I choose. So I would choose this inner text, but it looks like empty in this case. This is something tricky because if I click here, I can see some text, and it's tricky, but it's more or less common situation in the web world, since browser automatically trims all the messages that you see on the screen, but in the sources they may contain some redundant characters in the beginning and in the end. This is a common situation, and we reproduced it here to just show that it's something that we know how to deal with. So I'm just ticking on it because I want to verify it, and I click OK. So verification message created. Now I see that my previous click was on the login button, and its name is detected. The login is shown as an image, and actual button named with this long name. I would prefer to have more readability in my test, to just call it in some more readable manner. So I double click on the record detection. I modify it to display human readable version of the button, and I press finish. Okay, now I see what I expected to see. The recording is done, and in contrast with the JavaScript type of recording, with RVL, I don't see the script until I choose the place where I want to insert it. We will use that feature a bit later. So you may choose where you want this piece of logic to appear within your recorded script. I just want to appear it in the beginning, so I'm just pressing insert, and I see the recorded logic here. You may see some difference with your recording if you already tried to record with Rapise. It doesn't create comments here. This is because they're switched off. This is controllable behavior. You may find it in the options. It has generate comments, and I set it to false because it better fits on the screen. I have reduced screen size for webinar, so I prefer everything to be to have smaller size to be able to present. Okay, now that's it, and I'm going to just play it to make sure my test executes as expected. So I see it clicks on home, then it enters user password, does logs in, and it's done. Okay. Now I'm going to look again at this verification logic. So I have assertion that checks the inner text message, and this expected message is also hardly visible here because it contains new lines and some formatting that's not visible. So while this assertion works properly, it has I'm doubt about its readability. Also, it uses an object that actually refers to the message. So if it's not available, the failure will be not the absence of text, but absence of the whole object. And that's not what I want to happen. So I'm going to use alternative solution for the same. So I'm typing assert, and type of assertion will be result of the action. And I want to check that something is set. What's set is a result of finding some object on the screen. In this case, I will use the feature of internal object called navigator. There is a global, in the object tree that you may see on the left, there are lists of recorded or learned objects, and that are used in your test. And in addition to those, you may see the global window, it's fake window, and there is a number of global objects that provide a set of utility functions. And if you expand you may see many useful additional things. They are grouped by those objects, and you may use them right from here. So the same objects are available here in RL. So you may scroll to required object, and in Navigator there is find by text. It will try to find something on the web page containing some specific text, and that's actually what I want to utilize in this assertion. So I'm selecting the piece of text I actually expect to be available on the screen, and I'm using it here and defined. So the message to the assertion would be expected error message shown. Okay, now I'm saving and plan to make both assertions should pass right now because I expect the error text to be found in both ways. Yeah, so I may see that my last assertion worked as expected, and I may get rid of the first assertion. So I'm just selecting this piece. I don't need it anymore. Removing. Also, I don't need this object containing the error message. Since it's linked to that error message, it's not the right approach. So I just want to remove it. Okay, my test just became cleaner, and with one assertion, it should just pass. It may look something not really effective to go in such small steps. So I just do several steps and try again to polish those. But it's kind of common mistakes people not familiar with test automation trying to do. I don't encourage you to try record long test scenarios, because in many cases it is hard to polish them and then make them stable. It is worth to spend enough time making effective and well polished automation scenario, because you will spend this time only once, and then it will play time after time for you, saving your time with each execution. So the better you implement it, the more time you will save in total. So don't rush. Now, I have some scenario. It just runs the test for one user. That's good, but it's not really interesting, because usually I want to feed more data. And for that, Rapise has special feature. And while showing you how I'm using it, you may see the recommended way of writing test with RVL. So you start from left to right. Each column contains a list of options, and in most cases you may do everything just with mouse, because the list of options depends on what you choose. So I choose the map. I want to have a map of data here. So the type of map rows, and that's fine. That's fine. It's just several rows of data combined into columns, and each column has a name. They are shown in bold by area. So my map, I want my map to have a name. Say logins. First column, let it be user name, then let it be password, user name, password, and I don't want to have those. That's not needed. Okay, user 1, pass1, user 2, pass2, and that's it. So I have a map. But it's just a data structure, and it has not much value, since I want it to be somehow linked to my test logic. That's where another useful feature of Rapise may show up on the stage. So I'm choosing the loop. I want to loop through the map. So I choose a loop, and on the list of available loop types, I choose a map. So different types of loops, and map is for the best loop for data-driven tests. Okay, now I want to choose a map which I want to loop through. It's a logins, and here inside this loop it will select each row in the map one by one, and I may use data from that row. What I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this loop around my logic. So I'm taking its end, I'm copying it, removing this. I see this error message. That means that loop is not finished now, because I removed the end statement. I'm pasting the end statement. Now my loop is okay. I may remove those and play. So it goes first iteration, and since I have 2 rows in my loop, it will do one more iteration. But what I see is that it still enters not users I have in the map, but users that hard-coded in my logic. So it's high time to link my loop to the values in my map. And in Rapise, there is a built-in way through param type. I may choose the type of parameter to be logins, the name of the map. And if my param types mention the name of some map, then I may choose the column from that map to take value from. So in this case, here the username goes, and here the password goes. Okay, so now my data values are linked to my test logic, and I may execute it one more time to make sure that values from the map are taken by the test. You may see that it now used user 1, now it will take user 2, This means that it goes through the map row by row. So our test is already data-driven. Okay, now what I'm going to do is add one more user here. This one is actually existing user, and if I play that, what I expect to see is that error message should not appear, and my test should fail on the last user. Now you may see that what we see is it takes more and more time when I feed data to my test to execute it. So I have to wait for it to be done, and my times meanwhile I cannot do anything. So there are a couple of things I'm going to do about that to stay effective. First of all is there is an option comment interval. It means how many milliseconds to wait between each action. Now it waits 1 second between all actions, and this means that it enters something, waits for a second, enters something else, waits for a second, and so on. This way it takes some time because I have like about 10 or so actions, at least 10 seconds per iteration. Now I'm going to reduce it. In general, it's not recommended to reduce such intervals for production, but my testing server is quite fast. So I make sure it has good accessibility. It's needed for me because I want to save my time. So I'm sure it should be more or less stable with that interval. And if I play it now, it should go much faster with noticeable increase in time. So it failed for first user. That's what I mean. So this interval is too short and it failed in several places. So my server is not as good as I thought about it. Actually, it is good, but without WebEx running and without this webinar stuff, because I'm having some additional software now running, and this slows down all things, and it's not so stable. So I'm making this interval to be reasonably slow, to be stable, but fast to not waste my time. Okay, so anyway, I may reduce this interval. It works faster, but still have this failure, and I see that I will have to run it time after time. The first iteration failed because when test was complete for the previous iteration, it was in the logged in status, so it was unable to do login because there is no login button anymore. So I manually return it to initial state, and also what I'm going to do is use another feature of the map. I may choose this. This means I want this loop to see only one row. I don't want to execute it with those rows. For my debugging and development purposes, I prefer to have only this, and this will help to save my time, because if I play it right now, it will only enter one user, librarian, and that's it. So no error message, and that's expected, and I should do something about it. So what I want to do is I want to add another column, like wrong, to say that this user is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is not wrong. This is good user. Now, my goal is to write a condition and only do this assertion if the user is expected to be wrong. So I'm choosing an if because I want a condition. Now, first parameter to the condition is colon wrong, and I expect it to be equal to the true. So if it is wrong, then I want to do this assertion. Again, I'm going to put this assertion inside my conditional statement. So I'm copying this end and removing its row. Removing its row and inserting it here. So my condition will only be executed if I didn't do. Sorry. My condition will only be executed if given login is actually wrong. So if I now play my test, I should have no exception message, no errors, because failed for this time. Just play again. It didn't connect to browser. Press home, enter librarian, and no bad assertions because I didn't check because this user is wrong. Now, okay, it is wrong, but I want to, if user was wrong, I want to do a couple of other things. I want to check that this name is available on screen, this welcome message. This is one thing. And another thing I want is to do logout in this case. So what I'm planning to do is to a bit modify my script again. So I have this condition, if wrong user, then do assertion. And instead of just having this condition as single, I have to add alternative branch to it. So it's not else if, it should be just else, I think. Just else. I don't need this condition. Okay, so I have if and else. I've chosen wrong option. Okay. So in case of else, I want to verify that user welcome message for user is visible and do logout. So I'm going to start recording again. I see this logged in welcome message, and this is another good approach in recording in smaller sections. So we just played the script, it reached some state, and we want to update our script from the having the system in the state where previous script just left it. So we have it, and we may proceed working with it. So I'm pressing verify, click on librarian. Its inner text is librarian. It's actually user that logged in. Now I'm using logout to return to the initial state and doing finish. Okay, I'm inserting my new logic into this else block. Oh, here is my assertion, and here is my click to logout. Now, I may check that librarian has librarian is available on the screen, but this worded librarian actually came from my map, so I don't want the object to be named with actual data value, and I prefer to make it more universal. So I'm changing the object itself to logged user. I'm checking its locator, its XPath statement, and I make sure it doesn't contain the word librarian. So it is universal, so it will find the name of the user even if it is different, if it's another valid user. So it's the locator is okay. I'm changing the name to be user neutral. I'm changing the ID and name of the object to be shown as I wanted, and I'm choosing ignore object name. This means when then the tool recognizes this object, don't compare its name to this name, because it may be different user between different executions. So just find an object by this locator and don't look at its name, because we will look at its name in our assertion statement. Okay, so we changed that. And if I refresh this tree, I see now that I see this logged user object, and I'm using this object here. And now I'm just comparing its inner text to what I expect it to be. And I expect it to be equal to my data map username. So now I have universal comparison, and if I use different user to log in, and it's valid user, then it should work for that user also. So I have a universal solution for this piece of logic. So I'm saving it and I'm playing it. Again, I'm playing it only for the last piece, because my last user still chosen with this statement, and it passes. Okay. Now, I want to run it for all users. Before I do it, just a couple of words. In addition to this statement that allows you to pick one or several roles, so I may use it not only for one role in the map, but I may choose this and only run for those two roles. Or also I may use commands. Commenting is simple, either this character, so it will skip this role from execution, or multi-line comments also available. So I start here and I say here, and we have these two roles skip. So it's useful when you're debugging or working on your test and polishing it. So it's easier to pick up some data role and focus on it when you're investigating something. Okay, now my test is ready. It has 3 users, and I'm ready to execute it. But just before I do it, I'm sure it works for Chrome browser. Now it's time to add some more complexity to it. I'm going to choose different browser, say Firefox, and play, because we saw how it works with Chrome. I just want to make sure it works the same way with Firefox, and just copy user 1, user 2. So it worked for all 3 users. That's what I wanted, and that's fine. So we have it running on 2 browsers. I may do exactly the same with IE, but since I'm running out of time, I will skip to more interesting target is Phantom. So for continuous integration, for the ways you want to run it uncontrolled, the more stable execution environment is actually headless execution. One of them is Phantom.js. So I'm going to play the same test with this target. So in this case, no user interface interactions are performed. So even if I play with Selenium, usually I see some activity, but with headless execution, both these browsers are not used by execution, and test just plays somewhere without showing user interface. Okay, it passes. It's actually did all interaction with application, but in case of headless, it's good to have some more visibility, and I'm going to add it. So there is an set of options on the settings type, say and screen capture, and I'm choosing first to capture execution and playing it again. So it will make screenshots of from this headless browser to see how the web page was looking at some point of time. And then I will be able to see the flow of my test. Well, in the beginning I have screen flow, and if I click on it, I see this list of executed actions and screenshots of what was going on the screen during this execution. Okay, now there are some more options, I may say, including report, to see those steps right here. Also, I may choose widget only to see not the whole page, but actually interacted component such as button or a text button. So now I'm going to play again with all that options enabled. So Phantom takes some time to launch. This is an initial delay, and then it goes more or less smoothly. You may see how actions are changing. Okay, so in addition to screen flow, I've shown it in the previous iteration. For each action, I now have this report line with image of what was going on the screen, and also each image is cropped to actual widget position, so it's not the whole screen, but the focused component that I was going to see. So in the report view, I may now say do expand to simply see the whole report with images expanded and see it as a single line. Okay, so what we just did, some summary. We recorded a new test from scratch. We made it a data-driven test using the map. Also, we then expanded this map and added some logic to it, conditional logic. So operation differs depending on how the situation, what the situation goes. And finally, we made sure this test is cross-browser, so we executed on different browser targets. And so the results, including the screenshots and reports. All these were done without any heavy programming. So in most cases, what we do, we choose some objects, some actions, and only thing that we actually type are parameters. Also, we skip any syntax sugar, and with Rapise, if we say that parameter is string, we don't need to be care about things as escaping, special characters, and so on. The text is actually put here as is, as it's presented to user, with new lines, with tabulations, with everything. So we don't need to care about this encoding. And basically that's all. So thank you all for attending this webinar. And at this point, please raise your hand if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer those. While we're waiting for questions, I have some notice. So we are going to make these webinars regular. So we will cover other aspects of making Rapise tests in the future. We have more webinars on how to create test sets, how to link them with Spira, how to make scheduled execution, how to make continuous integration, how to organize your tests, how to organize them with multi-user environment, how to deal with binary applications, not web applications as we have right now, but with kind of different targets. Also, why Rapise is open, how it is organized internally, what's implemented in JavaScript, how it may be modified. So we plan to cover many of such aspects, starting from basic Rapise usage up to advanced Rapise usage in next webinar. So please stay tuned, and I hope it will be interesting for you to attend them in the future. Okay. Oh, sorry. It looks like there is no way to raise a hand. So, in this case, we're going to finish this webinar. Oh, I see. No, I see one hand is raised. Is Kevin.
Yes, actually, we are good with the feature, but can you show us the code, how it is generated, the code? Can we have access to the code?
Do you mean what code do you mean?
Okay, we would like to see the script files, both functions and test script files.
Okay, so actually, Rapise simply interprets this RVL. So it doesn't create any script file after this RVL. This RVL is simply interpreted line by line. So we have interpreter type of environment. But if you choose JavaScript type of recording, it will record exactly the same set of actions, but as a JavaScript. So you may choose JavaScript.
Okay. Okay, so there won't be any test files or function files, all those things. It will not be there.
Yeah. Okay. So you may have function files. The JavaScript piece has only one line for RVL, just to play script. That's all. And okay. RVL interprets it. Actually, the RVL itself is also implemented in JavaScript, so you may even debug it in Rapise to see how each of those lines are executed inside. It's a kind of very open environment. Okay. Heidi, please.
Hi. So, I have a problem with our current software that we're using. Say I have a test and then a programmer makes a change and they change an object name, then my test is broken. How do I handle that situation in Rapise?
Okay. Suppose that some object changed internally, and that's kind of a common situation, and that's why we have these object definitions separated from the test logic. For such kind of situation, what may be done, you may either fix such kind of locator, or there is a relearn logic. So let me say. Go here, say something changed with the username field, for example. I may do relearn. It point on the object again. And finishing. What it should do, it will update the object definition. So in this case it's the same, but if it changes, it updates the object definition, and the script after that stays valid. So that's how it's intended to do.
Okay. And then where I see lines 15 through 28, if you click on a single line, is there a screenshot showing what that's actually doing?
Not here. So this is for future. The language is RL is something quite new, but we do plan it. Right now, what you may see it in the report. So if you go to report, not like one of the last ones, you see the line set text, for example, and you see the image next to it. So right now the link is like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The question is if we can have different wait times for different actions. So this is a common thing that we need to wait somewhere. For example, login may make some time. There is no way to just assign a wait to specific action, but we may insert a wait statement here. There is again a global object containing utility functions for that. I'm choosing global, I'm choosing do sleep, and I'm choosing number of milliseconds to wait, like 500, which means half of second. In this case, it will wait additional half second after this action. Sorry, I have windows overlapping one another. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, do we have any other questions? I think no more raised hands. In this case, again, guys, thank you all for joining. I hope you found this webinar useful, and I invite you to visit other webinars. Please look for the announcements. Looking forward to hear you soon, and I hope you will find Rapise useful. Thank you all for joining. Have a good day.